Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. Glad everybody could join us. We would start if you want to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, today just to give you so you know, at 10 o'clock, we're scheduled with Board of Health at 10. So we'll work through our agenda, but I'll just try and be cognizant of that time. This time I'd ask Commissioner Mortensen review of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I did review the minutes of the activities of last week and I move to approve those minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Any questions, corrections? I see none. I would ask for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you. Consent agenda today. I'll run down this here real quick. We have a couple call for hearings coming up. One on November 21st at 9:45 in the morning. It's a call for public hearing to repeal and replace the floodplain management ordinance. We also have a call for public hearing on December 12th at 9:30 to amend the 2023 budget. We do that you've seen us do that at least a couple times already this year. We take a look at it every so often and make amendments. Call for bids. Call for bids are going out for the payment of royalties to Cowlitz County in return for removal of Mount St. Helen ash. This is on county-owned property located at 240 Cook Ferry Road. The call for bids are scheduled to be due November 28th at 11 a.m. We have an agreement, contracts bid awards, agreement with Silver Lake Grange to assist with the expenses of revenue lost during COVID-19 impact. We've done that for several Granges. There was money available for that. And once in a while we'll get, there's a form and a process they have to go through and we will reimburse some of those funds. Board correspondence, we have letters from the following from Castle Rock Mayor, Longview Mayor and Kelso Mayor, all on mental health tax. And we have vouchers in the amount of $3,491,081.85. Questions on consent agenda?
Yeah, on item number 4, just a modest modification of statement. We have funded other Granges for costs, but not for lost revenue. And that was a discussion we had. And
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Any other questions on consent? Would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented today.
We have a motion to approve consent agenda. Questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you. 2 motion items. Health and Human Services.
Morning,
Good
Gina
morning.
James, Health and Human Services. Happy Halloween, everybody. We have 2 items on the agenda this morning. These are sort of carryover items from a few weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, we had our state contract with the Developmental Disabilities Administration for developmental disability services. At that time, the board approved that contract along with 3 pass-through contracts. These are the other 2 pass-through contracts that are on the agenda today. So we have the first is our contract with the Progress Center. This particular contract is for child development services for children ages birth to 3 years of age in Cowlitz County. And just a brief reminder of those services. Anyone can be referred, a family can refer, a physician can refer, daycare could refer if there's any indication that there may be a developmental concern with a child. The Progress Center will meet with that family and the child and do some assessments and evaluations and work with the family if they choose to do so on a plan forward and just to help them with some skills and whatnot with their children. So that's the child development contract. I tend to go through. Do we want to pause on that one for a second? That one's a little bit different.
Excellent. Do you have any way to tell us how $127,000 is spent or would be spent adequately by past history? So we keep giving grants, but I have no idea whether it's actually bears fruit or not. And by bearing fruit, I think I don't mean that helping someone is a bad thing. I mean that taking money from somebody else to help somebody, I really owe the other people a justification that says, indeed, this is something you would stand behind.
Yeah, so the funding in this contract, and this particular funding for the child development services, it's pretty much stayed the same over the years. We've not seen it go up or down. It's not connected to individual clients like the other services are. So it's been the same amount for a long time. The Progress Center uses this funding for the services that they provide families and their children. And the goal with providing those services, again, they're voluntary, so the families choose to engage, is to help the children and the families be prepared to transition to the next step, which would be a preschool program. So these particular services go birth to age 3. Ideally, there would be then a preschool program that the child could transition into to continue with their development. Sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't, depending on what district the child is in. And hopefully it just gives them a good start to that, either preschool or kindergarten, if that's the next step. It is hard to say, we don't follow the children once they turn age 3 and they leave the program. So I can't look at, what that looks like after that point. But hopefully at the end of it, families have built some skills to work with their children and the children have made some advances in their development. So I don't have a great measure there because we don't follow them after, but.
This is very difficult for me because I don't have a control group, so I know what the difference in the paths are. And 2, in life, we learn by mistakes. Trial and error is common. And I always review things I do, have always done that. And in this case, I'm told that there is no review, and that doesn't sit too well with me. We really ought to be, if we're in the program of helping people, we really ought to know whether we truly are helping them. And I don't know that we can say that in this case.
The one thing I'll mention is when we do our on-site reviews each year, one of the things we do look at is we'll pull, random client files and review their individual plans. And so when they first come into services, they develop individual plans with the families to work on different things depending on what comes up through their assessments. And those individual plans document what activities have been done and the progress that's been made. So they may sign off on certain things. They may continue to work on other things. So that's one thing that we look at when we do our annual reviews.
How does this tie into Head Start?
Children may transition to Head Start or they may be in both, depending on the age. It's not necessarily like a direct tie. Head Start would be an additional service that families may choose to engage in.
From the perspective of a family, would you consider this a need or a want?
I think a need or a want. I have heard, I've heard anecdotally from some families, and I know some families personally that have gone through the program, and for them it was a want, just to learn some skills that they can do at home with their kids that may help, increase if they're having fine motor issues, for example. They'll teach them things they can do at home to help increase those skills. So in those cases, it was a want. In other cases, I think it may be a need, depending on the challenges that the child is having developmentally.
Okay, thank you.
So Gina, in the contract, there is a section referred to as the scope of work. And in fact, both this contract and the next contract have those sections, scopes of work. And in each one of them, there are a half a dozen, maybe 8 specific services that these funds pay for. Along the lines of what Commissioner Mortensen was saying, it ought to be relatively easy to document the progress that is made. I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that every single client and their family develops a plan of action. So it would seem to me to be a matter of checking, literally, how many clients were served during the contract year, how many, whether their plan of action was completed, how many sessions of each service the plan would include, and then what the measure of success is. Did they finish the plan? Or something in that matter. We don't need to know the names of the individuals or the families. That's not important. But I think just getting the data that with this money, we were able to help these disabled kids on their path to school readiness, because ultimately that's the goal. Isn't that something that could be accomplished?
Yeah, we can look at some different ways. We do get, so they, when they invoice us each month, it's a cost reimbursement. So they provide the service and then they submit an invoice to us. Part of that invoice includes a list of all the children that they've provided service to and what they're asking to be reimbursed for. And on average, it's about 84 children per month that they request reimbursement for. I'd have to go back and, we could go back and unduplicate that for the year to get a total unduplicated count.
Well,
for the
I
year.
wonder if my colleagues would be satisfied if in January you give us kind of a review of the previous year. I think these are calendar year contracts, right?
They're state fiscal year contract.
Oh, fiscal, so
Yeah.
6 months.
Mhm.
But I don't know if my colleagues are okay with that, but I think we've all been grappling with how do we measure these pass-through grants? They're all good ideas, but just because it's a good idea doesn't necessarily mean it's working. And the data could indicate,
Yeah.
at least that's more data than we're getting now.
So are you suggesting that we table this until probably end of January?
Well, no, not necessarily, because I don't want to interrupt, service levels because the kids are in the middle of their programs, but just to make sure that at least in January, we and I'm saying January because I'm assuming we're pretty busy with other paperwork for the end of the calendar year, the budget, our budget year.
In the past, I haven't been successful at eliciting kind of follow-up information because once we sign the contract and they count on us not recalling anything until the next year. So I'm not sure that would do anything, but I'd be happy always to get extra data. And I think you hit something on the nose, which is we can do all kinds of checking, but we don't know whether we did anything useful or not for some time after, let me call it graduation. And as a teacher, I know you've gotten students that came from instructor A's class, and you said, those guys are prepared, they understand. And from instructor B, not so good. You got catch up that you have to do. That kind of thing is always useful to understand.
Well, there is that challenge for teachers, but the other challenge is that kids come to class at different levels of preparedness,
Right.
often reflecting conditions in the home that we have no control over. But particularly with disabilities, they each have individual plans, and those they're held accountable. You know, the teachers are held accountable for how far along the plan they help those students. And you know, it just, yeah, we can't necessarily fix the problems because they're disabilities, but we can do the training and assist in the training. I mean, that's what the whole goal is, to help them be prepared for that first day of kindergarten.
Well, and it's not really, some of them aren't, it isn't disability. Some of it, I'm a little bit familiar with the program and know one couple that think it was very beneficial for their daughter. I think there's two different reasons for using it. One is parents are trying to learn some skills with a child that they've seen maybe has a little difficulty learning. And another is you gotta, you got a child in a situation where the parents don't have skill. You're almost teaching the parents in some cases versus how to interact with or how to work with their child. And in other cases, it's a specific child thing, you know, so it kind of falls on both sides. And like I say, I know I have talked to I haven't talked to all 86 families, but I do know one family, and they felt it was pretty beneficial. And I'm not aware if we have other programs that handle that young age.
I am familiar with reports about Head Start, because that was a big issue 3 or 4 years ago. And a lot of Head Start involved teaching the parents. And in a frank conversation with an employee, the claim was that there was very, very little progress on that. Such little progress that I'm embarrassed to even mention what the numbers are. But if pressed, I will do that. When we are using a program to teach the parents, I think then that gives us the seed for follow-up. I mean, if we're really interested in helping people, we got to figure out whether we really are helping them, and can we help more people with the same amount of money. So, you know, proof of concept is something, but most of the time I get the data that doesn't really add up too well. We like the program. Okay, most people like attention, most people like something for free. So you haven't told me anything. I do know one person who has a Down syndrome child that pulled that child out of this program, in particular out of the Progress Center, but it could have been out of any other program. And they felt that they were codifying the handicap as opposed to helping growth. Because even though you may be Down syndrome, you can grow.
We can definitely get some more specific information that's on those plans about the things that, you know, they're working towards, and bring some of that information back, and I'll put it on my calendar now.
Could you add, I'm really interested in what the level of handicaps are.
Okay.
So there's some pretty clear instances where you say, we're glad to help. And then there are other ones which is like, no, we probably wouldn't.
Okay. Yeah, I can get some more of that specific information and bring that back in January if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
I'm planning to abstain, so I will not make the motion.
Ready for a motion? or-
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve contract number 23-024 with the Progress Center to provide funding for the delivery of child developmental services to children from birth to 3 years of age as presented by staff.
Okay, we have a motion. Comments, questions? See none, I would call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
I vote aye on this one.
And I
Aye.
commit to bringing that information
Yeah.
back. I know sometimes it's hard when time goes by, but
I have issues with the way Progress Center works their employees, but I think they provide a service to the kids that I can tell. And from the people I've talked with that swing me that way.
okay.
As usual, I appreciate all your answers,
No problem.
and I expect to repeat the same in January.
Yes. So the next item is a contract with the Goodwill. This is for adult employment services, so kind of back to the pass-through contracts that we were approved a couple of weeks ago. This is another one of those. So Goodwill is one of our smaller providers. So right now they're serving 6 clients. So pretty small, but that's okay. And it is separate from, they have their Goodwill retail and work development stuff within the retail store. This program is separate from that. So the clients they serve don't necessarily work in the retail store. They work out in the community with typical jobs like our other adult employment programs. So I like to highlight that because I think there's some confusion on that piece.
And typically there is another person, I think the word we use is a job coach,
Job coach.
that these funds actually go to support that person while the client get some work experience.
Right. These funds go towards the service that the job coach provides, which is to help the individual obtain and maintain employment in the community.
So the wages are completely separated. The wages that are earned, that's generated by the business because the
Correct.
value being given to the business.
Correct. They're
Services.
hired just like you or I would be hired at any place of employment.
So
Minimum
can
wage
we
or-
assume that, can we assume then if there are 6 clients, there are 6 additional job coaches or do they spend just a little bit of time each day with the
Yeah.
client?
So for in this case, 1 job coach, and they work with all 6 of the clients.
So this grant just basically, we're covering the job coach that works with the kids.
Correct.
Is there a limit? You say 6 kids. Could we actually have 8?
They could. And so when individuals enroll in the employment program, they choose which provider they want to work with. So yes, they could serve more if individuals choose them as a provider.
In this contract, we don't nail the number down.
No.
So it could be 2 or it could be 12.
Right. That would affect the funding level. But we don't say you can only serve so many.
We get billed for our,
Right, for the hours of
Yeah,
service
okay.
provided.
and the age group is from,
This is the adult program, so 21 up. Or after, 21 or after high school up,
So these would be for kids who finish their high school completion
yes,
and time to go into the work world.
yes,
So this helps provide the assistance.
correct.
So they've been on special ed programs, the individual educational plans that are developed for them between kindergarten and 18 or 21, they're entitled to continue in public school until they turn 21.
Correct, yes. And at the last meeting, we had some conversation about a new school to work program that works with kids that are still in their school setting. So we're gathering some more information about that now to bring back for some more discussion.
And the other agencies that provide the job coaching includes LifeWorks,
LifeWorks.
as well as a program called Compass.
Compass and
And-
Employers Overload.
Employers Overload,
Yep.
that's right. Yeah.
How close is this program to an apprenticeship? It seems like it would be a form of an apprenticeship.
There can be there can be a phase of skill development where, if an individual is interested in a certain type of job, and they may work with them to build skills so that they could be successful in completing that job or the tasks connected to that job. But the goal is always to obtain employment for the individual. So that skill building phase is short term.
How long is a typical individual in this program?
They're considered long-term supports. And so it just depends on the individual. Sometimes job coaches are able to build in supports on the job and then fade out and go from providing, if an individual works 2 hours a day, they might be able to start out providing support 2 hours a day and then tailor that back. And maybe it's just a check-in at the end of the shift or something like that. In other cases, individuals may need more support and they're not able to fade out. So it could be very long-term. Some cases it may be shorter, but I do have on my list to look more at the individuals, the average length they're in the program. I know that came up last time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the tutoring of people in that work age group is pretty important to me. And the only way I see that done is not really through a specific classroom saying you will do this, but one where you actually have a common chore and you're working kind of an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Could you also include for January? I should have probably said January of 24. The kinds of disabilities.
Oh, sure.
Any other questions? Call for a motion. So desire.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve contract number 23-025 with Goodwill of the Olympics and Rainier Region as has been discussed.
We have a motion on the floor. Comments, questions? See none. I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you. Thank you, Gina,
Thank you.
as usual. Appreciate your time. Couple things to just give you a heads up on before we head into public comment. This afternoon at 1:30, I know you're probably tired of us here and we have budget workshops, but this afternoon actually is the first full budget look. We've been looking at departments and this one will be one with all tax receipts and expenses. So it'll be a full budget. Next Tuesday, we at the 1:30 workshop, we'll have a discussion on planning commission. And then on the 8th, on our Wednesday, and this is a night meeting, 5:30. We have Family Promise of Calais County. Okay. I know we have about a half hour before Board of Health, so we'll open up the public comment.
This will be short. I have an official Cowlitz County Public Records request. Mr. Mortensen lit the fuse the last time I was here about records. So I'm going to hand each of you a public records request, including your secretary. And the issue that you're going to be looking at, all records concerning the termination of employment of Axel Swanson, former chief of staff. Enjoy, Commissioners. I hope public records soon.
Sorry about that. I should introduce myself. My name's Jennifer Bennock. I would like to hand you some looking material here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you. Jennifer, I didn't get your last name. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I live up on 2441 Kalama River Road. And these are just some pictures I took that I'm having some issues with up on my road. The before picture, you'll notice there is an easement right there. That's a county easement. I was told by Public Works that is a county easement. I live on a private drive, and there's about 7 houses down there that we share that private easement with. Currently, well, it's been about over a year. One of the owners has moved a trailer up there, blocks our easement. There's a car up there. He has a barbecuer. He's built some decking. This is also where we get our mail and where we put our garbage cans. Just coming out from this road, because it is a blind corner, and there's logging trucks going about 45 miles an hour that will not stop. It's extremely dangerous, and I can guarantee you someone's going to end up getting really hurt. There's another picture where this trailer is sitting over a wellhead. And then also this person is building decks made out of scrap wood pallets that he attaches to the county guardrails. And it's right by our mail where we pick up our mail. That picture is kind of hard to see. And the next pictures, the trailer's hanging off of the road about 10 feet with no sewage. And there's 2 people living in there. It's propped up with a 4x4 piece of wood. And then also he started a fire last year because he's just stringing an electrical cord and through to the trailer. And then he did bury some hidden waste tank, but me and my husband went under there, and it's just sewage leaking right into the river. So the problem is I've called Public Works. They told me it is their easement, but they cannot do anything for me to call the sheriff's department. And this has been over a year. So I call the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department will ask me, well, is it licensed? Yes, it's licensed. Oh, well, we can't help you. Call the building and planning department. Okay, I call the building and planning department, talk to Tracy Jackson. Oh, that's not my department. You need to call the health department for the sewage part. I call the health department, speak to I think the supervisor there. I'm sorry, I forgot her name. Well, we can't enforce anything. We're short-staffed. We can't help you. So this goes around and around and around. So here we are a year later. There's no enforcement. Nobody can help me. And it sits there. And the person that owns it has rented it out. You can go to Zillow or rent.com, and he rented out for $950 a month. 2 people are living there with no septic, using water, just dripping in. You can see it dripping right into the river. However, when we built our house, we couldn't even run gutters towards the river because they didn't want any rainwater going off there. But someone can just let sewage seep into the river. And I'm just ashamed that I live here and Cowlitz County can do nothing to help me. Yet my property taxes went up $30,000. So thank you.
She pretty well said everything I was gonna say there, so I'll just make it quick. The violations that he's doing is, he's got Oh, Richard Benock, I'm her husband. But anyways, the violations that William has are numerous. He's also stated to me that he intends upon making that a religious retreat campground area. And if you go into campground rules, he's violating dozens of them. You know, there's too many for me to list here. So, there's the 7 houses that are down there that are all, you know, I mean, I don't understand why it appears as though I am the bad guy here because I'm trying to get some guy that's got a trailer up by our mailboxes and where we get our garbage cans dripping sewage into the river and nobody seems to care. So I'm coming to you guys. So that's 2423 Kalama River Road is where he's got this thing parked. And he's got it rented out. I went up with my dog to get my mail the other day and looked in the trailer. The guy's in there naked, brushing his teeth. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that somebody can live somewhere and not generate wastewater. You know, I mean, and that's good. Thanks. Hopefully you guys will help us take care of this situation.
Do you have an email? Do you have an email address?
Yeah.
Is it on the sheet you gave us, or if you would add it, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Use this. Don't have one. Okay, let me see if I can read it. What is that?
Oh, it's a little, all their little letters. I'll just make it a big letter, but it's not capital.
Right, it doesn't matter on an email address, it can be upper or lowercase. Okay, thank you.
Are you gonna send me something?
I hope to get in contact with you. My intent is to try, in these situations, everybody that has been in the system for some time, there are always pieces of information that I would like to go pursue before I say
There's
anything.
more information, let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
I
and
just
so,
don't have the time to.
oh, no, I have no doubt about what you're saying. I have to figure out what happened in each step.
I spoke with Mr. Richard Dahl for several times, and the last correspondence we had was that county doesn't have enough employees to take care of the situation for me. And they would have to look at their budget and see if they can come up with some more money or something like that, which to me, did not make any sense.
Okay, for this, you would want to sit so that other people can hear you, or,
Sure.
yeah, but, so that's a B, an E, a W, an A, and a K?
Yeah, I'll write it there. I'll have my wife write it, okay?
All right, sounds fair enough.
Girl writing. So
Good morning, gentlemen. I own the property next door to the property we're discussing, and I share a well with that property. And this trailer has been brought in. And what I find is that there's a barrel which he uses, I guess, for his sewer that he's been using as a tank.
Thank you.
And my question is this, since my well is there, right underneath this trailer, and he can put an ad in the paper that says, okay, I'll rent you this trailer for $950 if you take your own sewer away. Which is what, is that legal? Can he do this? And do I have a recourse in terms of my knowing that my well, which can easily be contaminated, not to mention the other well that serves 5 other families that's only 50 feet away, and the river, which is 75 feet away. It seems to me this gentleman is getting away with way too much here. And I'm here this morning to ask for your help. It's been going on way too long, and I'm very concerned about the water and what happens to it, obviously. Because if my well went dry, that's the well that I would use. He's got people using it. It's never been tested. The water's not been tested. There's nothing.
Well, I will look into it with the approval of my colleagues. In terms of testing, that's often pretty much on the burden of the
Yes, it
well
is.
owner. So
I agree.
I would go ahead and have the testing if you have concerns on
I
that.
think that's a very good idea. I think I will do that. But the problem still remains. I've got 3 people, a guy and 2 kids living in a trailer. And where's this water going? From him taking showers, and are they really carrying their waste out? Is that an option for people to rent in this county and do that?
Yeah, we'll look into it. The people really in their home typically have an occupancy permit that is granted after all conditions are met. I'll go find out about this.
I would appreciate it, sir. Thank you,
So,
gentlemen.
so in the last year and a half or so, we have made some specific efforts to address problems similar to yours, where a neighbor is violating the rules of common sense and oftentimes sanitation laws. We do have a nuisance abatement officer that, not surprisingly, has been overwhelmed with the responses. He's working through them. We have, as part of the health department, the environmental health unit that goes out, and then they're supposed to be looking at those kinds of things. And to assist them, we have an agreement with the sheriff that there is a sheriff's deputy that works with them. So, and again, this has been a relatively recent development. So you can be assured that the 3 of us are going to be monitoring to make sure those jobs are being done. We assume that they have, but the citizens as yourselves are the eyes and ears of people who are violating the rules and regulations. And if they can get away with something, they will, because they're out in the countryside. So I'm sorry it's been as frustrating as it has been for you, obviously. So you've given us the information, you've given us pictures. We've got things to share with staff. So it does require a lot of paperwork, because we're talking about restricting people's property rights. But we need to be acting to get a resolution. So I'll look forward to Mr. Mortensen's report, and we'll probably be having other discussions like that as well. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Yeah. Didn't this, probably not a question for you, but didn't this go away one time? We were talking and I thought this trailer went away.
No,
It-
well,
put an ad in Zoll saying you got practice human manure composting. I sent you that ad, by the way, Richard. I don't know if you
Yeah,
saw it.
yeah, I remember that, but in a previous time we were talking, I thought you'd said because we had environmental health out there in the trailer. Okay,
Now, this just started last week. These new.
with the new people in it.
Yeah, moved in.
So that's what you were telling me is the people were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
we have about 10 minutes before Board of Health, if anybody has anything else.
This is the kind of thing that's infuriating because there's the legal element and then there's a neighborly element, and we have modest control over the legal element. Modest is a key word, and over the neighborly element, we have no control, but that kind of, that's not a good thing to see in a neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I was mentioning Commissioner Mortensen that 2 days I spent up in that growth management deal, and I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you, the county took a different approach. Chelan County actually turned over code enforcement to the sheriffs. How that agreement works, I don't know, but she seems to think it works a lot better, but
Well, we do have a code enforcement officer in the sheriff's department, and it's always a question of what rises up to the cause of action, because there's so many people with so many problems.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, if we've got a minute here before the Board of Health meets.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, when we were having our discussion, well, it was maybe a little one-sided on Hope Village. You ended by saying to me that Hope Village has not solved the problem of homelessness, and I wonder if you can articulate further on what they might be responsible for in your eyes, or how they might solve homelessness. Is that something that they've been charged with by you and they failed, and that's why you refuse to fund them?
It's Tom, it's a Longview issue. It's
It's a
not my issue.
county-wide issue.
Yeah.
There are homeless people all over your entire county, Commissioner, not just Longview. They end up in Longview because Longview has taken the lead to actually do something where you have chosen to do nothing.
And you should work with Longview and help them do what they want to do over
You're
there.
sitting on nearly $3 million that is designated to help this problem, and you're miserly, recalcitrance. You just sit there and make statements like this and smirk like it's funny. These are real people. It's cold out, Commissioner. Did you know that? And nothing.
Go ahead.
You have no moral obligation to these people in your eyes, and yet you call yourself a Christian. It's a joke.
Well, sometimes jokes need to look in the mirror. Anybody else? Okay, Board of Health will start at 10. Do we adjourn or recess?
I think we adjourned this part.
Adjourn this one because the Board of Health separate meeting. Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.
And